All right. What we have today for you, I think it's very exciting. It's about the future of PMO. It's basically the next frontier that the PMO can achieve. Just a short intro. I'm a professor at the faculty here at North Macedonia. I have been involved in AI for maybe 1.5 years, but Aleksandar, on the other hand, has been involved from the beginning in AI. Let's say in comparison to other industries, you don't think in decades, basically you think in years. So Aleksandar has been there from the beginning, and I think he'll make you understand some of the ideas and some of the work behind AI and how this can be applied to business use cases. Our goal today is to present how the PMO can evolve from just scheduling or reporting or approving to basically thinking and act as a partner to your work. If you see most of those videos from eminent, let's say, professors and researchers and engineers, for example, from Harvard, about how to use AI, the main goal is not to use it as a tool, but basically to use it as a partner. And this is our way of thinking on designing the agentic PMO. We'll go into a bit more detail later. So I think, Aleksandar, we can go to the next slide to start defining some of these aspects. So our goal is not just for PMOs to schedule work, but to go more on the delivery side and to orchestrate intelligence. In the past, let's say, 20 years, or maybe more recently, 10 to 15 years from the emergence of cloud computing to big data, we have seen more and more data get captured by PMOs, especially. The biggest problem is yesterday we say, okay, the PMO was a filing cabinet. So you have all of these reports, all of these logs, all of these plans, but they are managed still by humans, which means that big data, per definition, has to go through machine learning, through algorithms, so humans cannot interact with it. And the problem became sort of like analysis paralysis situation, where you have so much data, so much inputs, and you are stuck with either analyzing this data for a couple of hours, days, weeks, and then making a decision, or making a decision without this data. So it became a sort of a double-edged sword. Today, we can see that the PMO is a control tower. So everywhere we go, we can see dashboards, dashboards, dashboards. This is what is trendy. We have all of these dashboards, but again, this data, even when presented like information, it might be TMI, which means too much information. So what data gets picked up again by humans is a bit debatable, right? So our view of tomorrow is the PMO becomes a teammate, which means that we have created something, and we are still working on this, but we have created something that is agents that help you and work alongside you instead of just listening to your commands and doing your mundane or less mundane tasks. So we can go to the next slide, because I think we will now start uncovering the problem. So if we tap, let's say, Aleksandar 01, which is the first number, we'll see some statistics here, and I think they're very interesting. I'll preface this just to tell you, I was there when cloud computing started getting trendy. I was here when gamification started getting trendy. I was here when COVID hit and digital transformation and virtual working started getting trendy. And with technology, it's all about the same cycle. Now it's AI, and AI is very prominent, but it's mostly the same thing. There is a new trend. There is a huge promise for companies. Companies jump on the trend. They don't implement it as they should, and then there are a lot of problems. So you can see here, Gartner predicted in 2024 that 30% of generative AI projects will be abandoned after a proof of concept or MVP by end of 2025, which is not good, right? Then if we go to the second, let's say, problem, 40% of agentic AI projects will be canceled by end of 2027. And see, the problem is not the technology itself, but it's either due to costs and unclear value. So the third problem is, if you can click, Aleksandar, please, 8 of 10 companies use generative AI. but just as many report no significant bottom line impact. And we see this all over the place. This change comes usually from top management. Top management forces it to the employees. Employees use it in, let's say, quotation marks, and then we see that the bottom line is nowhere to be found or the real value. So if we go to the next slide, the 74% of companies struggle to achieve tangible value. This is because it's all rushed. So we rush to implement something, we rush to see the value, and when it's rushed, when it's not strategic, and this is why prefaced with gamification, with cloud computing, with virtual working, whenever you rush these strategic initiatives, you never realize their full value, and in some cases, especially gamification, you achieve negative value, and this can be also the case with AI. So the fifth problem then is 1% of companies, and this is from McKinsey, consider their AI deployment fully mature despite the massive investments. And again, this is the case where companies are investing in something for the promise of value, but not just the value that is nowhere to be found, but also the system itself, the platform itself, it's not fully mature and it's not fully ready to be used. And the final problem that we'll be solving today is 12% of projects fall outright in Europe. So even the successful ones are slowing down. This means that 1 in 10 projects don't even launch, and the rest of them are slowing down, so less and less initiatives happen. We have massive gains in AI, but this is nowhere to be found on the practical side or very, very limited implementation. So we can go, I think, to the next slide. Our goal is to have 2 operating models, and we can see them here, how they function. And I presume I don't have to explain to any one of the listeners today on the Global PMO Day how this works. So we have the waterfall and the agile PMOs. Agile is, of course, always more trendy and better to work in. But even from the, let's say, start of PMO way of thinking of this method of working in maybe the late 40s, 50s, it was always a problem because it's always sequential nonetheless in certain cases, and you have to find critical paths. So we go now to the next slide, please. This is where I'll leave it to Aleksandar to introduce you what an agentic PMO is. I'll just explain from my side because I'm more from the business side and he's more from the technological side. The idea is to have an autonomous system that has full guardrails. We call this human-in-the-loop system, and can directly help the PMO be more or less self-sustainable on AI. So to deliver true value on AI from day one, and to deliver value, especially in data analysis, which wasn't available at all in the previous iterations of any type of AI implementation. So please, Aleksandar, over to you for now.
Thank you, Martin. Hello, everyone. My name is Aleksandar Dimitrievski. I'm co-founder of APX Solutions. I run an AI agency, and today I'll explain the value of agentic organizations. So, for 30 years, we've defined PMO by what it observes. Today, we want to define it by what it does. On the left column, we have a workflow that each step is escalated to the next step in the pipeline, while on the right column, we have an agentic PMO that actually finishes and executes the loop. On the left column, we have escalate at the end. So each step in the workflow is escalated, while on the right column with the agentic PMO, we have execute. That is where the agentic PMO starts earning its value. This is specialized. It's not one chatbot or one AI doing everything. It's a team of narrow specialized agents. This is a living being. So it changes as the portfolio changes. It adapts to the needs of the organization. It's a living organism that lives inside a company and understands how all the processes are done and made. It has guardrails. So nobody is handing the budget to a robot. Nobody is handing the budget to an AI agent. Humans stay in authority and agents do the complete legwork.
Aleksandar, sorry, can you turn on and off your camera? It's frozen. Sorry for interrupting.
Sorry. What about now? Can you see me?
Yes, now it's fine. Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Professor. So, yesterday's PMO described the project. Today's PMOs participates in the project. This is how the organizations of the future will look like. Agentic architecture of organizations. This isn't the PMO design, it's how organization will look in the next decade. We have one architect agent that orchestrates and designs the entire workflow, and we have specialized sets of agents that work. So, previous organizations had only one type of workers, humans. The new era agentic organizations will have two types of workers, humans and agents. It will have the same logic, same roles, same accountabilities, and hands-offs, but will have specialized agents. One agent doing everything fails. Same like humans. We cannot have one human building an entire company and doing everything. We need narrow roles, clear lines. We have a set of agents working in narrow roles, having clear lines and knowing exactly what they do. We have the resourcer, the risk, the finance, the status, and the architect agents working closely together, communicating and sharing data. We have in our company brain in the middle the whole data and the whole workflow that's inside the company. And then that data is orchestrated within our agents. So the PMO runs in an agent roster. It governs it, it audits it. We have a human in the loop that actually approves all of that, which we will cover in the next slide. So we're not being replaced. We're becoming the operating system. And our next hire might not have a LinkedIn profile. If the agents are workers, they would need a way of working. And that is the next slide. So it's a closed loop. It's not a pipeline. What does this mean? Most AI tools are pipelines. You prompt in and you get an answer out, and the system completely forgets. The agentic PMO doesn't work like that. It works in an opposite way. It senses, reasons, proposes, a human in the loop approves, then it acts, and it learns from the complete loop. Approve, it's not bolted on the top, it's a built-in stage in our pipeline. That is how guardrails become our core architecture. That is where the humans intervene and approve the complete process. Learn closes the loop, the most important thing within the process. Every new iteration is smarter than the previous one. Every new iteration has learned from the previous ones and makes it better, more optimized. And closes the loop, makes agents fixed in what are their narrow tasks that they need to do. Pipelines forget. Loops compound. They compound in knowledge and in organizational structure. This is how we can scale organization with closed agentic loops, having specialized agent for each narrow task, staying in their clear line, executing their stuff. The agents propose and the humans decide. What is this happening? So, the agents have a confidence score. They escalate, they approve, or they auto-execute based on the confidence score they fit it in. So, there is no trust me or believe me here. Every decision that the agent takes has a threshold of the confidence score, which we as a human, as the executive of the agentic organization, we instruct this. Based on the confidence score, then it's rerouted in either escalate, approve, or auto-execute. So in the end, we will know we have 34 escalations, 47 approvals, 312 auto-escalates. Agents don't replace our judgment. They route it where it matters. But routing isn't enough. We need to verify. That's the trust. These are the four pillars of the agentic trust. First, it's the reasoning trace. What the reasoning trace means? We have trace of every action that the agents took. We have the trace of each reasoning they did that led them to do that specific action. We have their confidence score. We described it. The confidence score, it's what the agents think and how confident they are into executing that task. Then we have revisable actions. Everything revisable, we have a complete version history, and we can revert into anything, into any kind of version, so mistakes become recoverable. They're not catastrophic. This is what makes the auto execute safe. And also, within the fourth pillar of the trust, we have the audit log. The audit log is who, what, why, when. So who did, what he did, why did it, and when was that done. This way, we have a whole complete transparency within the agentic organization. That is it from my side. I'm now handing it back to Martin.
Perfect. Thanks, Aleksandar. I'll take over. We have only a couple of more slides, but I can see we have time. So our idea is, this was mostly on the theoretical side on how we do the technological implementation. While Aleksandar was speaking, I had a sneak peek in the comments, and I really like what you are writing, because I think you are spot on. I'll answer these questions a bit later. Now we go to the practical side and what this does for you. So you can see here, for example, it's the idea is not just to have one tool and then you do a couple of prompts and you get a result. But basically, we're designing processes. So these 5 agents can can work together. Here you have on the slide a simulated scenario where, for example, you give it a brief. The architect takes the brief. This is more or less the generative AI. Then it puts it to the resourcer. The resourcer calculates whether you have resources for these types of implementations. The risk analyst takes all of the risks and does the simulations, and finance sees whether it makes sense and pulls all of the data to put it in a certain document. So here the scenario is you need a slide deck for a board-ready presentation. And let me see, because I think I fixed my screen sharing. I wanted to show you something. Just let me try. Yes, so let me do this one. I'll remove Aleksandar and I'll add my screen to stage. You can see my screen right now, right? So sorry about this. So this is a short demo. So let's say we want some task like a board-ready presentation for an office reallocation. I have a demo here. I click on this, and this is what it does in the system. This would be the prompt, and the prompt says, okay, look, build this, do this, separate all of the data. Then the system does all of these separate tasks, so it's a process. And this goes from the architect agent to the resource agent to the risk analyst. And then the goal is to do everything and for me just to have the final presentation, and this would be the end result. So this took 15 seconds now because we have trained the agents to work faster, and this is an isolated scenario that we have been testing. But all of this is generated directly. All of the numbers you see are pulled from the system, and everything is done basically with local LLMs. So I'll maybe continue from here because now I have full access. So I'll just do it like this, but I don't see my buttons. Okay, I can do it here. The next feature that we have, because we have all of these agents working together, is simulation. We know that AI does simulation with data, but the problem is it's all isolated scenarios. What we can do here is we can see the current projects within a certain PMO, basically the whole portfolio. We can do branching features, and we can do Monte Carlo style simulations to see how it would play out basically in thousands of instances, and then take the averages of those instances and see which risks are there. And then, for example, once we have the risk, we can have the risk analyst do simulation on those risks, and then we can have the architect have mitigation strategies, and so on and so on. Again, once we have all of this, why isolate it on a single project? We can see how these changes on a single project can influence the whole portfolio. So basically, we simulate shocks either in one project or per portfolio. And again, we do this 24/7 with our agents because they are not humans, so they can work all of the time and they can give us much more data that is available. Because with big data, with dashboards, you can have everything on hand, but with these agents, you can have data that is basically has gone through a lot of these simulations, a lot of algorithms, and you can have much more insights and much more information. So just here, for example, we have this time machine thing where we ask what would happen if this project fails in 12 months, and we do a new style type of article, which is a common way of simulating projects. And then once we have this new style type of article, we have the post-mortem or the autopsy, where we can see which decisions or which actions have led to this project failing, where was the point of no return. Then once we are here, instead of just keeping it here or having a human analyze, we can automatically promote it to a risk register, and then we have our risk analyst agent analyze it, run scenarios, and then even connect to other systems and fully try to solve these types of potential problems. The goal is here not to replace humans, but the goal is to change how they are working with the system in a way to empower them. So what was the reporter? Now he becomes the curator. If someone was a scheduler, now she becomes a strategist. If someone was a gatekeeper, they need to approve every change. They can be the orchestrator. They can even be much more proactive. And this connects to the firefighter. Instead of being reactive within a PMO environment or a portfolio environment, you can become the forecaster, and you can have playbooks on each type of scenario with probabilities of happening and ready to go mitigation strategies just to finish, just to monitor and basically manage them. So we have 3 steps here for the adoption process. I think this is one of the most critical things on how do we approach change management within an organization. This is a whole separate, let's say, discipline, but we try to follow the typical process of unfreezing a certain behavior, then implementing the new behavior, and then freezing the new behavior. So if this was to be implemented in a realistic fashion within a certain PMO, the whole system has to be in the first couple of weeks in an observe capability. So to watch, to analyze all of the data, all of the interactions, and the agents to see all of the signals. The second part would be these small wins or low-hanging fruits, where we co-pilot a couple of processes, and we do more of a suggestion style, a laissez-faire style of support, where you support all of the employees and all of the humans within a PMO, and humans approve every action. And then the ideal scenario, or let's say the last stage, is the autopilot, but again, autopilot with a human in the loop system, because whatever AI does, there is a human who is verifying and approving all of this work that is being generated. And this usually happens within the second or the third quarter of implementation. So it's a very, very specific thing to implement. It's a very complex thing. The prerequisites are for the company to have either certain data systems or data in a unified way, although, to be honest, more and more with AI processing of data, all of this can be handled in whatever format the data is. I must also mention that systems like agentic PMOs have to be two-way interaction, so you don't just pull data from the system. So whether you have Oracle, SAP, whatever, you don't just pull data from the system, but we need two-way interaction, so we can also push data and push changes within the system, because this will achieve the true agentic style of PMO that we are talking about here. I don't have the QR code here, but Ritu will share, and we can share a link for the slide deck. Our goal is that the next PMO or the next people in the PMO won't just be hired, but it will be deployed. So all of these agents, we expect that more and more, let's say, initiatives like this will happen in the future. And we believe that this is a strong precursor for what will happen in 2026 and especially 2027. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. I believe we were within the time frame.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Aleksandar. Yes, you are just on time. And thanks for the presentation. I know that a lot of people nowadays are telling that AI will take over, and we saw the film of I, Robert since 2004. It's coming again like a meme, and everybody is telling that this what will happen next days. And I know this kind of agents will help us a lot as human, I can say, or as an employee. But just a question, like, how do agentic organization change the role of middle management? Do they even survive?
Sorry, I didn't get that part. It was cut off.
a little bit.
Okay. How do agentic organizations change the role of middle management?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question, and with what you prefaced about people getting, let's say, scared of AI replacing them, in the industry, I can see more and more in the AI industry. It's called AI empowerment, which means that you can do more now that you could have done before, and the same would apply for middle managers. But on the more practical side, I think that it's in some cases it might mean a bit of a reallocation of skills or reallocation of focus for a certain position. So as we mentioned within the presentation, wherever there is gatekeeping, which is mostly middle managers with these let's say more or less administrative tasks, this would get automated. So what took maybe 5 hours now will take 1 hour or even 1 minute for a certain middle manager, and then the rest of the time can be spent to other new, let's say, skills that can be gained and that can be deployed to a certain position. We saw this happen with COVID, for example, where digital transformation was only like partially implemented within companies. There wasn't so interest, and then suddenly you had these digital transformation specialists that arrived, and that was one of the most demanded positions and to be hired. So I think it will happen similarly here. People will just evolve with new skills, with focus on other activities. I just want to be upfront and just say that all of this AI empowerment will happen, but some of the activities inherently will get automated, and then there will be no need for human involvement, or not human involvement, maybe it's a wrong word, but human involvement to a very extensive fashion. So in some activities that took 10 hours, now it might take 1 minute or 10 minutes, and it's an illusion to think that humans will get, again, the same level of involvement in these activities regardless of AI. So it will require maybe learning new skills or just redefining some positions.
Yeah. Thanks, Dr. Martin. Thanks, Aleksandar, for your time.
Yeah.
And